Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please read the adequate notice?
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the City Clerk's office in the preparation of the Council Annual Meeting Notice dated December 15, 2022, which was properly distributed and posted per statutory requirements. Please be advised that the fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room.
Thank you. And we'll now have roll call.
Ms. Allen? Here. Ms. Fox?
Here.
Ms. Hairston?
Here.
Ms. Hamlet?
Here.
Dr. Levine? Here. Mr. Miniger?
Here.
President Vartan?
Okay. And now we'll ask our rent commissioner, Leslie Salcedo, to get us started with the Pledge of Allegiance. All stand, please.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, will you read the notice regarding closed session?
A closed session meeting as authorized by state statute was announced and held prior to the start of this meeting, and the known items for discussion were listed on the published closed session agenda. Please be advised that council meetings are broadcast live on Comcast Channel 36 and Verizon Channel 30, and rebroadcast on Thursdays and Saturdays on HTTV on Comcast 36 and Verizon 33. When invited to speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and address, spell your last name, and speak into the podium microphone so that your comments can be understood by all and properly recorded. Whenever an audience or council member reads from a prepared statement, please give or email a copy to the City Clerk's office at cityclerk@cityofsummit.org. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to approximately 3 minutes or so in length. Unless you are using an electronic device to follow meeting agenda or need it for professional emergency contact purposes, please turn it off. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think before I go into regular business for approval of minutes, I just want to say I'm not Greg Vartan. So I really want to take this opportunity to wish our council president, Greg Vartan, a quick and speedy recovery, and I know he's watching and with us in spirit. And so with that, we'll move on to our approval of minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of our regular and closed session of February 21st?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All righty, we'll move on to our reports.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. Good evening, everyone. First, two things. A reminder about scholarship opportunity that I am offering with the New Jersey League of Municipalities for high school juniors and seniors who live or go to school in Summit. There are 3 $1,000 scholarships available through the Lewis Bay Second Future Municipal Leaders Scholarship Competition, a statewide competition that centers on the theme, quote, what my municipal government does best, and seeks to highlight elected officials' hard work and encourage future municipal leaders. The deadline to apply is March 10th. More information is available at thecityofsummit.org. Secondly, on Monday, March 13th, PSE&G intends to begin digging up Springfield Avenue between Essex Road and Waldron Avenue in what is the first part of a major gas infrastructure work that will extend into our downtown through the summer. While this project work is unavoidable, it will be disruptive to residents and business owners. We have over 80 connectors to buildings, and the gas lines need to be replaced. They are very old. The Communications Office will provide weekly updates on the schedule, including road closures and where overnight work will take place. I encourage you to go to the city website and sign up for notifications. That way, when information is put out, you get it automatically by email or text, and that's really the best way to get immediate information from the city. And you don't have to go to the website and look for it. It comes to you. We will also share all this information on all of our social media channels. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Administrator Rogers, do you have a report for us?
I do. Good evening, and thank you, Council President Pro Tem Harrison. Tonight, I would like to provide members of the community an update on a recent development with the New Providence Summit Millburn Joint Dispatch Center, also known as the Mountain Valley Emergency Communication Center. I will begin with some background on the partnership. In December 2012, the Borough of New Providence and Summit entered into a joint service agreement to form a joint meeting entity that would aggregate its collective public safety dispatching services to administer, operate, and manage a shared center for 24/7 emergency 911 call taking and routing, and for non-emergency call receiving and routing to the two municipalities. In 2014, the Township of Millburn voted to join the New Providence Summit Emergency Services Dispatch Center, and the two municipalities subsequently accepted Millburn as a participating member. Thereafter, the three municipalities created a new entity called the Mountain Valley Emergency Communication Center. In 2015, the MVECC commenced operations at its new center located within the Borough Hall of New Providence. Over the past 7 years, the center has fulfilled its mission to provide professional emergency communication services to these communities. On February 28, 2023, last week, the Borough of New Providence provided notice by resolution of their intention to withdraw from the agreement with Summit and Millburn effective December 31st, 2023. The borough will then participate in the County of Union Dispatch Center. While unexpected, the decision by New Providence to withdraw from the Joint Dispatch Center can also be viewed as an opportunity for Summit to evaluate our future options. Determining what is next for emergency communications is a top priority, and I will work closely with the MVECC Executive Director, Common Council, the Safety and Health Committee, and our emergency response professionals, Millburn, and county officials to lay out the best options for our municipality. We will explore a cost-benefit analysis of each to determine a viable solution and communicate it clearly. I will continue to update council and the public throughout the process. And that's all I have for this evening, Council President. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Rogers. And for our President's report, in communicating with Greg, this is a big deal, what our Administrator just shared about the joint dispatch. And he wanted me to make sure that everyone knew it is a top priority for Summit to make sure that our emergency response is not interrupted by this at all, and so we'll be paying close attention to this. And as Administrator Rogers said, he will keep us posted, and we'll be doing everything that we have to do in terms of the financial responsibility that goes along with this. We'll be looking at all sides of that, so stay tuned for that. And with that, we will move on to our ordinance for hearing. Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance?
I certainly will. Thank you. Ordinance number 23-3275, an ordinance amending the code, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-11.2, stop sections, intersections designated.
That would be you, Councilmember Fox.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. This ordinance will amend the city code to make Prospect Street and the Blackburn Road Prospect Street intersection a four-way stop, with the addition of stop signs on Prospect Street. This four-way stop is intended to reduce motor vehicle crashes and enhance pedestrian safety. Some of the supporting information on this ordinance was omitted from the agenda packet. So we will supplement the packet before the next meeting. Because this hearing was noticed and advertised, anyone who would like to comment tonight is welcome to do so. And after the comments are done, I will move to continue the hearing to the March 21st meeting. So the public will have access to that information and the ability to come back and comment again if they'd like to. So if you want to hold your comments, you can. If you want to comment both nights, you can do that as well. And so we will hear further comments on March 21st, and we'll vote on that night accordingly. So with that, I move to open this hearing.
And I second it.
And I think it might be helpful, Director Schrager, would you be willing to come up and just tell us first how we got here?
Certainly, through you, Council Pro Tem. Historically, the Engineering Division or even the Police Department had received a lot of stop sign requests. So in 2018, we did adopt our own stop sign installation guidelines, which was then formally adopted by Council in the beginning of 2021. This request started in mid to late 2019 for Prospect and Blackburn through the Police Department from residents, which then came up to engineering. In November of 2019, we requested the crash history, which is one of the first steps we do to analyze an intersection for a stop sign, which we received in November. And then as we went through, the pandemic hit, in which traffic came to a screeching halt, literally and figuratively. So this was kind of put on hold. So there were some safety reports for the last few years that said once traffic resumed. Earlier, at the beginning of the school year last year, you could safely say that traffic had resumed to normal conditions. So this study was done towards the latter half of last year, at which time the results did reveal recommending a stop sign, an all-way stop condition at Prospect and Blackburn.
Thank you.
All righty, so we will open it up to our council members for comments. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Council President Pro Temp. I just wanted to ask, through you, Council President, I wanted to ask Director Schrager, for the public, can a resident also request us to do a traffic study through a DAR, or is it only the police department that can make that recommendation?
No, and through you, Council President Pro Tem, yes, it could be through a DAR, it could be directly to us, it would go, a resident can request it. That's how a bulk of these do come up, as people requested. The guidelines do detail that stop signs do not control speed, because there's a lot of people who will request, they're speeding on my street, I need a stop sign. That is not what they're intended for, nor do we implement them for that. So it could be a resident, it could be the police department, it could be other departments, but typically it is through residents and neighborhoods that do kind of voice their concern and request.
Okay. And then when we did, when you guys installed the Pine Grove sidewalk, and then we did no parking on one side of the road, residents were not notified, because when it comes to safety, there's a certain protocol that's different than other protocols. So for this particular thing, it's a safety issue. So are you going to notify people on Prospect? How does that process work?
So what we had decided as CAPS a few years, so not the current CAPS committee, that when we are installing a new stop sign, we would notify the residents on the immediate corners of the intersection. This one is somewhat unique because Prospect Street is being, there's an improvement project that's happening, so this implementation of a stop sign, if approved, would be done as part of that. So a letter notifying residents of the project, so essentially all of Prospect Street was notified that this project was coming. That did include an all-way stop condition. So they did receive notice, and it directed them to the plans on the website. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And through you, Council President, just one last question, not for you, Director Schrager. So this is just bringing up one of the residents' concern. I just wanted to put it out there that resident Laura Coburn gave me an okay to use her name. She was concerned that we are trying to modify safety behavior through the stop signs and versus enforcement. So are we looking at a component of enforcement? So for example, there's kids that park there from Oak Knoll, and there's a 2-hour parking restriction. It's not necessarily being enforced. So how will we ensure moving forward that anything that's enforceable over there also is in tandem with the stop signs? Because one last statement. On Blackburn Road, when the Oak Knoll parents are dropping off, they end up parking on both sides of the street. So I don't know if Chief Zagorski would like to say something through you, Council President. But I just want to make sure that the resident feels heard, but I also live in that neighborhood, and it does get a little bit tricky over there. So can you maybe talk to the safety issue and enforcing parking on that street to ensure that if we do install a stop sign, that we kind of do the whole thing together, holistically?
The enforcement and that has nothing to do with the stop signs, what I'm talking about. We received that complaint, and that was put on our list of problem areas, that when our patrol, we assign specific tasks on each day, that's one of the areas that we are added to the list. Also, coordinating with Rita McNanny from parking, because there is a 2-hour zone there that they enforce. The one on Larned, I believe they were talking about, correct? Or
Well, it's Blackburn Road and Prospect area, so there's a lot of cars that are parking there, and part of the problem with the sight lines on Prospect is that people are parking close to that area. So as you're trying to cross over Prospect on Blackburn Road, there's cars that are parked on all 4 sides, and so it inhibits the sight lines. And so, and then they'll park there all day long. So that's.
well, the
is that your
2-hour
question?
zones, that was mentioned in the email. That would be part of the enforcement. I'm not 100% sure the exact location you're talking about. Is it legal parking on both sides? Because sometimes that's a problem in residential areas. It may not be designed to have cars parked on both sides of the street, but there's no signage prohibited either. I think that might have been rectified in that particular area, but I'll double check that.
Okay. Actually, and just to clarify, also on Blackburn Road, so when they do pick up and drop off, the parents will line up on both sides of Blackburn Road. I do believe, and I don't know off the top of my head, but I believe there is some prohibitive parking, but parents will still park there.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that, residents had written in and they said, we want to make sure that the parking behavior is also addressed, because we don't always want to. I know that the stop sign is about
they're two
sight,
different
yeah.
things, yeah.
So there's two different things, but she just was concerned about making sure that there is enforcement on the street when people should not be parking beyond a certain point. And I think we've done a great job around the high school, and so we just want to make sure that it's the same type of behavior around.
Basically, with the exception of, I think, Washington School and maybe Jefferson School, most of the school pickup areas, we just got a recent complaint about Norwood and Kent Place. At pickup and drop-off time, it's 5-10 minutes of chaos. Unfortunately, we can't be at every location for drop-off and pickup, but what we try to do is, schedule and target specific times to, and pick a different school or a different area in the morning and in the afternoon. And that one has been added to the list and actually moved up because when the complaint came in.
Okay. And when you referred to Director McNanny, are you saying that parking services can actually ticket?
In 2-hour zones. I believe I think maybe Larned is a 2-hour zone. And I think that was actually mentioned in the complaint. I'm not sure in the email.
Okay.
But I've been coordinating with her also on another street too. I believe it's Edgar. We had a complaint with 2 hours and also with overnight.
Okay. So. I just want to confirm, I drive through there all the time, and it is tough to see as you're coming over the street, on Blackburn Road. There is some blindness on Prospect, so okay. I'm very acutely aware of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Councilmember
Member Allen. Thank you, Chief. I almost want to ask you to stay and talk about the pedestrian safety measure that you and the mayor and our communications officer has rolled out, but I think that is probably not within the auspices of the ordinance that's being introduced right now. So we should just allow you to sit down, and we will take any other comments or questions from the.
And Council President Pro Tem, everyone should know that if they want to speak this evening, they're welcome to. But if they'd like to look at the backup that will be included in the next meeting and have more information, they're not forfeiting their right to speak at your next council meeting when this hearing will be continued.
Yes, Councilmember Fox said that, and I reiterate that, and our council has thirded that. So you are not limited just tonight, but you also have that opportunity. Any other comments from council members?
I just have one, Susan.
Sure.
I've read through I don't have a lot of history regarding the residents or, the issues around that street. So I'm looking forward to any discussions that the residents have. I truly do not remember when this started or what the desire was initially. I am familiar with the area, but we're certainly open to all of these questions. I've read the traffic study at length, so Director Schrager, I'll probably be linking up with you next week to, you can answer my questions then. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hamlet. And now we will open it up to the public. Please state your name and your address, and is that it? That's it. All righty.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Stephen Piazzio.
And I'm Joan Piazzio, and we live at 85 Prospect Street, which is the northwest corner of the intersection.
It's the exact spot that you're talking about for the stop sign. We have lived in our home on Prospect Street for 31 years. And we've raised our 6 children in that home. And Joan is a stay-at-home mom, so she's home quite often. And in those 31 years, we can only recall 1 car accident at that intersection. And talking to our neighbor, he said there was another one you may have missed, a recent one. So we can think of 2 now. So we're a little uncertain about the safety issue for over 31 years because we have the history. We were surprised when we did see the traffic monitor by our stop sign. And I'm sure it creates some kind of metric over cars divided by time to create some kind of metric. And we think it's almost frivolous because it's almost the same metric that you can use on Springfield Avenue and High Street, another intersection, but you wouldn't put a stop sign there. And when we look at the accident history, which we would like to see, that was prepared, we would like to see that. We think it's almost immaterial. But our concerns are noise, because there is a fair amount of moving trucks, commercial trucks, garbage trucks, delivery trucks that come into the area. And to stop a 5-ton vehicle and then to restart it over an 8-second period is just going to create a lot of noise in that area. It won't be very subtle. It will be very expansive into our neighboring homes. And it's not just the 4 homes on the corners, it's the contiguous homes nearby. But when we talk about energy consumption as well, and just follow me on this, I know that Summit looks at it as green technology. When we built this town hall, we talked about how green it was. And when we did the rec center, how green it is, the fire department, how green it is. But to put this stop sign here creates a carbon footprint. And we started checking out different bioengineers and different traffic engineers and what their feelings were on stop signs. And Victor Miller of Stanford University in 2011 wrote that one of the worst things you can do in a town is to put a stop sign. He says for safety, you need a flow of traffic. He talked about, he went to joules and gigajoules and kinetic energy, and it's very complicated. But at the end of the Stanford review, which was second by most people, they talked about the carbon footprint. Second would be the cost of something like this, the innate cost that people don't even realize. So Gary Lauder, who has given many TED Talks on the exact same issue about stop signs, he's a founder of the Socrates Society and the Aspen Institute. He's got 10 patents, smart guy. And he said the same thing. For traffic safety, you need a traffic flow. There will be less braking, less acceleration, less gas consumption, less pollution, less time wasted, and less wear and tear. And he calculated by putting 1 stop sign in a neighborhood would cost the neighbors in the area $51,000 to put a stop sign for all these gas consumption, et cetera. That's in 2010 dollars. In 2023 dollars, that's over $250,000 is what he figures, which would be nice to spend in downtown Summit, have the folks. But our biggest issue is we would like to see this suspended. We think this is a rush because the real problem is Oak Knoll. So since we've been in our home for 31 years, we were here when Oak Knoll built their gymnasium. And at that juncture, they pledged to all the neighbors that they would not have any parking on Blackburn or Prospect Street. And to gain this, we gave our approval and said, okay, build your gym when we have that pledge. It has not been honored. So when you talk about the 2-hour parking on our side, on Blackburn and Officer, it's not enforced. There is 2-hour parking, and it's a bevy of cars every day. Our neighbor's home has 2-hour parking, many cars.
I think we're 5 hours.
Okay, so it's being ignored. Oftentimes, there are cars parked almost into Blackburn Street on our side. We have like a little piece between our driveway and Blackburn, and there are usually 2 cars parked. And a lot of it has to do with Oak Knoll, the administrative office, and that has a lot of traffic coming in and out, and they park on Prospect as well. So they did pledge to us, it hasn't happened. Now, Oak Knoll is running a survey right now, and I'm not even sure if you're aware of it, but they're pondering building a garage. And the garage would alleviate all these problems of parking on Prospect. So they're in the initial stages. We think they're going to get there, and we think that's part of the problem, is the traffic by that stop area. Again, you said that there was a pedestrian who put this complaint. I don't know any, not pedestrian, a neighbor. I've spoken to a lot of neighbors. I don't know any of them that want to see a stop sign there. Traffic safety, we find that it's safe because of the accident history. And again, we'd like to see, we don't know of any pedestrians that have been hurt by a car or something. There is an issue with the sight lines, and that's because of the congestion of the cars. So we think the easy solution at this moment is to have no parking 100 feet from the stop sign on all 4 corners. And let's see what happens with Oak Knoll and that parking garage. It may cure itself, where you don't have to put a stop sign, because then we would have stop signs. You know, we'd have 3 stop signs into the connection, and already there's a horrendous traffic flow down at that corner. And we just think with Oak Knoll's traffic, you're going to create another congestion point. So I think what you're trying to find is for a 15-minute problem when they let in and out, or if we enforce the present codes with the parking, or if we put in those 100 feet no parking lanes, you will create the solution instead of having a 24/7 stop sign and creating the problems that these experts have provided.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Piazza. Thank you very much. And I think we'll suspend your response for the next hearing. So I don't know if you're going to be able to attend, but please tune in. I know he can, Director Schrager will be able to address those comments.
Council President Pro Tem, may I say something in response to that real quick?
Sure.
Mr. and Mrs. Piazza, thank you for coming. I didn't recognize them, but their daughters babysat for my children for many years, so thanks for coming. I just wanted to put on the record that I am responsible for the parking committee, so I will certainly take that 2-hour parking question back and get back to you.
I wouldn't mind. May I comment as well on that? Sure. Council President Pro Tem.
Dr.
Thank
Levine?
you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciated the comments that were just made. I think they're not listening at the moment, but I appreciated their comments. Specifically, the bit about noise created at the 4-way stop sign is something that I personally haven't given much thought to, so I appreciate that they brought that to light, and that's something that I just wanted to share that I plan to look into a bit. So just wanted to add that. Thanks.
Council?
Sure.
Yeah. I just wanted to point out that the fact that we are considering a stop sign does not exclude other measures, that we will also consider, including we will have a conversation about no parking in some of these areas and also enforcing parking. The challenge that we have is that there is illegal parking at every school for the same 10 to 15 minutes in the morning and the afternoon, and we only have so many police officers. So I think, some of this is incumbent on residents to follow the laws, to keep everyone safe. So it's a little frustrating because I understand, we get lots and lots of emails from people saying there's a problem at this school, there's a problem at that school, but they're just, and I chair the safety committee, but there's just a limit to the resources, and because it's all happening at the same time, I really just urge everyone to please try to, to make sure that you're following the rules and that your friends are as well. And I know the police department is going to be sending officers to the schools, to the PTOs to talk about these drop-off and pick-up issues. So, we'll be doing our part as well, but it's really a joint effort.
All right. Come on up. Thank you. Ms. Toth. Would you state
Good
your
evening.
name?
Claire Toth, T-O-T-H, at 11 Sunset Drive. I'd like to speak in favor of installing a four-way stop or some other form of traffic control measure at the corner of Blackburn and Prospect. Like many of us, I've developed very convoluted driving routes around town to minimize delays and maximize the number of rights-of-way that I have as I go through town. And a few years ago, my right-of-way at Blackburn Road and Pine Grove Avenue turned into a four-way stop. And that was the right decision. Cars on Blackburn were just flying through that intersection. Then more recently, my right-of-way at Prospect Street and Tulip Street became a four-way stop. And that was the right decision. Getting through that intersection had become a game of chicken. Now the city's considering whether to make my right-of-way at Prospect Street and Blackburn Road a four-way stop. And I think this is the right decision as well. When I drive east towards town in the morning, cars from either side of Blackburn Road are crossing Prospect way too close to traffic on Prospect Street. They're just, they don't see, or they're trying to get across when there really isn't sufficient time for them. And coming west home at the end of the day, up that hill, the afternoon or evening light or car's headlights coming the other direction hit you at such an angle that the left turn onto Blackburn Road is practically blind. And that's really scary. I appreciate what the Piazzas have said. My guess is they don't make that particular turn that often. It's a scary one, and controlling traffic at the intersection may slightly lengthen my drive time, as the other four-way stops have, but I think that this is going to be a significant safety upgrade. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Dory Gagnon.
Excuse me, Dory.
Oh, my phone.
Yeah,
That's what happens when
it's
I
not
have a
gonna be
charger.
good.
Sorry. On the go. Okay. A couple things about the four-way stop. You recently installed one down on Canoe Brook, and yesterday somebody just almost hit me. So I think we're installing these all over town. I mean, I've lived here for almost 40 years, and behavior's not changing. People are just going through them. They don't care. Nothing is, they're there. People are just, and it was the one on Canoe Brook he blew through, wasn't the new one. So, you know, I think we're happy we're putting these in, and yes, people who see them, we're stopping, but people are not noticing them. So like I've said before, maybe when our paint is back, we have to do something to make them more visible. The flashing lights that are over by the Hobart one maybe are good. Do something already to the existing ones to make them people to slow down. I can tell you I was at the last Unified high school basketball game, which I encourage everybody to come out and watch next year. It's amazing. These kids are so energized. And I was sitting next to a neighbor who lives on Prospect. She was not notified. She had no idea this was going through, and she was very upset because she could not join tonight. So I'm not sure how they were notified, but she was not aware of this. I'm curious as to what Mr. Schrager was referring to when he said that that intersection is going to be redone. If he could just let us know, President Pro Tem, I would appreciate that. I also feel that we have to hold these schools, Oak Knoll School and Oratory School, and any other building that's going on here accountable to their zoning ordinances that were put forth. Because I couldn't get out of my driveway tonight because Oratory has leased out their basketball, their gymnasium, and parking is on my street. And just like this couple said, parking is on their street after Oak Knoll did their gymnasium. So, you know, they say that they're going to do one thing, but then we're left dealing with the aftermath as neighbors, and it's not fair to us. So I think the accountability has to be held, whether it's in zoning or planning. Something has to be done because we as neighbors shouldn't be dealing with this all the time and getting stressed. They said they weren't going to lease out their space. They lease out their space. We can barely get out of our driveways. We're dealing with the kids. I understand we're having a parking issue, but then we shouldn't allow them to keep building and building and building till there's nowhere to park. So I think those are things that we have to look at planning and zoning and say, let's stop the overgrowth before we don't have anywhere to park anymore, and then our neighbors are getting upset. So I feel sorry for them because I'm dealing with the same thing, so I apologize for you. In regards to the new Prospect one, I asked the neighbor who's living on the corner of Prospect, I said, so how do you like this? She said, it slows down traffic, but the noise is horrific. So in regards to Councilwoman Levine, and she's saying, I never thought about it either, but she said when cars stop, they speed up. And so she lives right there on the corner, and it really bothers her. So it is something to take in consideration. I think you should ask the residents and how they feel about how these four-way stops have been going. I'm not against four-way stops at all, but I feel like they have to be placed in the right position in the right place. So those are just my suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gagnon. I think you need to respond, Director Schrager.
Absolutely, through you, Council President Pro Tem. So the Prospect Street project was notified to all residents on Prospect Street. We pulled the owners. We do notify the owners if there is renters. We don't have record of that. That is what we've done historically. That's all we have.
Can you let us know when?
I can't tell you specifically. It was towards the end of the year. And that letter did direct, describe the project and directed people to the website. Those plans are up on the website right now on the engineering webpage. We did receive some feedback from some residents on Prospect Street. I don't doubt that some people do throw out the letter, but there's no other means that we have to communicate other than sending it to the official list of the property owners within the Prospect Street corridor.
Could you respond about noise? How is that taken into consideration? Because I know there are minimum requirements for stop sign. It's not that it's not willy-nilly. These are federal legislation guiding those. So can you tell us how it responds about noise?
Yeah, there is no criteria or is noise really factored in. I mean, naturally noise does come with a vehicle stopping. Larger trucks that was mentioned with air brakes could make some more noise, which is why you might shy away from doing things on a larger hill where those brakes will really pump. With electric vehicles, cars are much quieter now as well, so there is some change in that. But I can't say it'll be quieter, but there is definitely noise associated with the vehicle stopping. So.
I think that was the other about emission. Is there anything any criteria that you're...
None that factor into the stop sign itself. I don't doubt that with stopping comes certain emissions, which is why some vehicles now turn off when you're stopping. So, but I can't speak to that. I would have to trust the Stanford guy on that one.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Anything?
Through you, Council President Pro Tem. Director Schrager, I just had two questions. When will the traffic study be available to the public? I know we didn't get it in this packet. When will that be available? Tomorrow or?
That's going up. It's already...
You should ask the clerk that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the agenda packet for March 21st will go up the Friday before the council meeting. It'll be posted on the public website.
Great, thank you. And then Director Schrager, I just had one other question for the MUTC, so the Municipal Traffic Code. I forget all the words, but I noticed that this particular traffic study was only one day on December 8th. Is that the standard?
If it's a typical traffic day, yes, that can be used to. So if school's in, it's not a holiday, and it's normal traffic.
But that's
flow, then
different
yes.
than when we do a traffic study on a road, which is 7 days, correct?
For a speed, you could do 1 or 2 days just for a speed study. We typically like to do
Okay.
longer. You try to get a full week, but yes.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Good evening. My name is Richard Avery. I live at 75 Valley View Avenue in Summit. I've heard, and I'm sorry, don't know, you're director of?
Community services.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. I missed a few memos. I'm assuming that the guidelines that were developed by the city and by him are consistent with the federal guidelines. They are, great. Because I noticed in the federal guidelines, the 5th item is accident reports. There are other things that follow quite a ways ahead of that. I came here tonight through this intersection, and as I approached, on the A Street was coming a car that was less than 2 car lengths away before I could see it. Fortunately, his headlights were on, but between shrubs in that corner, which I know there are ordinances about how high shrubs can be, and just the overall coming up that hill, it's almost impossible. I think the reason we have so few accidents is we have a lot of diligent people. They look at what's coming at them, and every time I come to the intersection, and I go through it every day at least a couple times, I crawl forward in it to see who's coming. Cars are going quite quickly as they're heading west, generally much faster than east from what I can tell. And also your line of sight is much better to the west than it is to the east. So I would highly recommend a stop sign there. I understand there's valid concerns about noise and pollution. I think some other suggestions have been made tonight, like actually enforcing, I believe it's 50 feet from a stop sign, isn't it? Is a state law. Just enforcing that would be helpful. I know that's a lot to enforce, especially near schools where there's drop-off. But I think there's several ways to address this, and one of them might be a stop sign, but I think we do need to look carefully at noise and pollution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Ralph Hollenborg. I'm at 77 Prospect, which is the northeast corner. That's Hallenborg. I guess I'm a relative newbie. I've been here 26 years. And I'm concerned about noise, certainly. I also think that waiting for Oak Knoll to finalize their parking solution would be advisable. They're considering, I think, adding 50, 60, or 70 parking spots on their property, and that's going to have a change of traffic flow as well. It is a 2-hour zone in front of my house. It's never enforced. I've never raised the issue because they're primarily administrative vehicles from Oak Knoll. We're trying to be good neighbors for them. And if we did raise it, chances are they're going to go swing around down Blackburn. And I have 2 driveways. I have a driveway on Blackburn, and that gets blocked frequently. So I'm concerned about getting blocked by moving traffic or parking traffic from Prospect to Blackburn. And my front driveway, I would say is probably 20 feet, because it's been, the house is built in 1895, so I think it's not subject to any other codes for that driveway from the end of the corner. I can see losing use of my driveway if you put a 4-way stop there. So I have several reasons, to oppose the stop sign. Those are my bushes that do block that corner. I kind of look at them as kind of negative consent in that it slows people down. They have to crawl out. They can't just slam across Blackburn and Prospect. You've got to take your time there. There's a lot of traffic there. There's no enforcement there. People fly through primarily the Blackburn towards Prospect. That would be southwest corner, making that right onto Prospect. I walk my dogs twice a day. I got my head on a swivel when I cross those streets because, again, people are not stopping. And again, it's more of an enforcement issue in my mind than anything else. So I would just ask you to consider other options.
So I'd like to make a motion to continue the hearing on the 21st of March.
And I will second that motion.
Okay, so do we need to vote on that, Madam Clerk?
To continue the
Yes, you have to vote on it. You're carrying it to the next
Okay.
Okay, so ask all those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Jacoby, should I do a roll call vote, or?
I would do a roll call vote. Oh, I think they're back on.
Yay.
It was me telling him to turn it on.
Okay.
Just saying.
I'll do the roll call vote. Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Hairston?
Aye.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Dr. Levine?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, does that mean we don't do the final consideration?
That's
You do
correct.
not.
Okay.
Yeah,
Final
that's carried until
consideration
the
will
next
carry
meeting.
to the next meeting.
Okay. So now we will move on to resolutions. And the first resolution up will be from Finance, Councilmember Miniger.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. This is resolution number 1025, and this resolution authorizes emergency temporary appropriations for the municipal operating budget. The statutory language required in a resolution like this uses the word emergency, but this is a regular occurrence, not an emergency. These temporary appropriations are to help fund city operating expenses and payroll expenses until we have adopted our 2023 budget later this spring. I move to adopt this resolution.
I second. I second.
Are there any questions from council members? Okay. Any questions from the audience? Okay. So I think with that, we will do a roll call vote. Madam Clerk?
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Hairston?
Aye.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Dr. Levine?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
Okay. We move on to the second resolution for finance. Councilmember Minigar.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. This is number 10227, and this resolution authorizes emergency temporary appropriations for the parking utility budget. Just like the last resolution, statutory language required with this type of action uses the word emergency, but this is a regular occurrence, not an emergency. These temporary appropriations are to allow payments that are due before adoption of our 2023 budget later this spring. I move to adopt this resolution.
I second.
Any questions or comments from council members?
I just had one question.
Sure.
And I probably should have called Tammy before the meeting, but I didn't get a chance to. I just had a question through you, Council President, perhaps Councilmember Miniger, you can answer, but can you just be more specific on what in this parking utility? I just truly can't find the information, and it's probably in here somewhere.
It was, I don't have the exact dollar amounts in front of me either. It was payroll, a small payroll, and some expenses, like 13 specific
Right here.
expenses. Thank you.
Memo. That's it.
Yeah, so 13,000 in salaries, 105,000 operating expenses.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any comments, questions from the audience? Madam Clerk, we do a roll call vote for this one?
Yes. Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Hairston?
Aye.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Dr. Levine?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
And that one passes. Thank you. And now we will move on to capital projects and community services. That would be Councilmember Dr. Levine.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. Resolution 10215 serves to reject bids and authorize re-advertisement of the Rowan Road and Oak Ridge Avenue Improvement Project to potential contractors. A request for bids was advertised, however, an addendum did not accompany the packet until after the fact, making the bids technically not valid. So now that the potential bidders have all the addendums, they can submit their bids again. I move to adopt this resolution.
I second that.
Any questions from council members? Any questions from the audience? Okay, I think we can do a voice vote. All those in favor of this resolution?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? And this one passes. Okay. Dr. Levine, the second.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. Resolution 10219 awards a bid for 2023 through 2024 for professional landscape maintenance services in the amount of $195,580. It's a 2-year contract which covers landscape maintenance in 13 spots around our municipality. The company is the same company that was used last year, and they did a satisfactory job. They know the community, and they understand the work that's required at those 13 specified sites. I move to adopt this resolution.
I second.
Any questions from council members? Any questions from the audience?
Just so you know, there was a little glitch online, so people missed out on the little bit of activity we just had. I have a question through you, President Pro Tem, to Councilwoman Levine about this. I am a little confused because I thought we, I guess through Mr. Schrager as well, to help me understand the landscaping services, how and why we have to bid landscaping maintenance outside of the city. I thought we had some great people working for the city that I know very well. So can you just explain to me why we have a $200,000 contract now for maintenance outside?
Sure. Actually, Director Schrager and I were talking about that just today, and he explained it to me, but I think he would actually sorry to pull you up here again, I think do it justice to describe that relationship.
Absolutely, through you,
Thank
Council
you.
President Pro Tem. Yes, and just to clarify, it is about $97,000 per year. This is a 2-year contract. We did have them for the last, actually 4 years, and had someone before that. So close to a decade, the city has kind of removed itself from doing landscaping because we're not as efficient as landscapers are. We maintain some equipment because we still will maintain the park line, the pool, and a few other areas. But it is not something like snow removal where we're very efficient. For the price there, $97,000, with benefits and salary would just really pay for one person. And this will take care of these 13 sites with spring cleanup, fall cleanup, and 30 plus mows a year. So it's just more efficient to use outside services. That said, we don't have as much of the equipment because there's also the equipment cost and the fuel cost that's not factored in if we did it in-house. So we don't have enough to do it in mass anymore because when those items were coming up, which are big ticket items, over the last decade we didn't replace them to save money in that manner.
Thank you, Director Schrager.
Councilmember Hairston, I think that what Ms. Gagnon was asking was why we don't have a contract with a Summit landscaping company. Was that the question?
Did I?
No. Oh, that was the question?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, got it. Okay,
And
sorry.
just to jump on that, these are publicly advertised. We put it in all the papers, we spread the word, and we do not get a lot of bidders. So it is what it is, but we follow the public bidding laws. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so I think we can do a voice vote. All those in favor of Resolution 10219?
Aye.
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 Any nays? This one passes. All right, community programs and parking services. That would be Councilmember Hamlet.
Sure. Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. This is ID number 10212, which authorizes a grant application submission for 2023 for the American Platform Tennis Association grant. This is one of the final grants that we will be looking at for the paddle courts near Wilson. And I'm very pleased about this resolution. We have an amazing team of residents, including Carrie Delmonico and Regina Feeney leading this effort. They are actually playing in the New Jersey State Women's Platform Tennis Tournament that was actually today, and so I'm sure we'll see them in the finals, and we thank them for helping us through this grant process. This is a great example of the City of Summit and the residents really accomplishing some amazing things to get these grants done. So this is actually a request for $18,146. So with all of this, the paddle courts will be close to completely funded. So we're hopeful to get this grant, and I move this resolution.
I second, but I also want to say that new Councilmember Hamlet did a really great job. One of your first things he pursued on this, so way to go.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, any questions from council members?
I'd like to make a comment. I'm just glad to see that Summit is being a leader in mainstreaming this sport, which is a sport that I'm familiar with because I participate in this sport, albeit not well. But it's a very niche sport, a very technical sport. It's not like pickleball or traditional tennis where you could just go out with a ball and a racket and just sort of play. It does require very specialized coaching and teaching. So I'm glad to see that the grant profile to complete this project is robust. And being such a niche sport, it's not really just a capital expense for Summit. So I applaud the way the committee has gone about funding this project.
Thank you. And I certainly agree. It's going to be really exciting to get a lot of the young kids. Chatham's been a great example of a community who's pulled together for tennis courts, and it really won't be a country club sport anymore in Summit. So looking forward to that.
All righty, any questions or comments from the public? Okay, this is a voice vote. All those in favor of resolution 10212?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All righty, this passes. Number 2.
A lot on my plate tonight. This is ID 10250, which is to amend the 2023 council liaison assignments. for adding the council liaisons to the Grace Board of Trustees. So at this time, during closed session, we will be appointing Councilmember Fox and myself to the Board of Grace Trustees. I'd like to move this resolution.
My second.
Okay, any questions from council members? Any questions from the
Wait,
audience?
I'm sorry, Susan, I actually do have one question, even though I'm moving this resolution. It's been a busy day. So my question is, I really want to understand we've just nominated ourselves as the liaisons. What really is the role? What are we trying to accomplish here? Are we we're just liaisons, we're going to go to the meetings, but is there an expectation for, is there like a job description, or what exactly would our role be?
I'll take a crack at it. I think the city of Summit has gotten very involved. Grace serves a very important function, but the city of Summit, in order to help them in their mission, has incorporated them into our insurance, utilizes city space, et cetera. So I think this gives the city to have a liaison, some oversight, and somebody to report back to the full council, given the kind of symbiotic relationship between the city and this group Grace and what they do to serve the community. Not just Summit, but the community at large.
The only correction, they're no longer under our insurance anymore. That was the one change we made.
I knew that. I just wanted to test the Council President Pro Tem, and you got it right. You win.
Okay.
Thanks for clarifying.
Did you want to give more information?
I just want to
Councilmember
say
Fox?
that actually Councilmember Allen was involved in negotiating a memorandum of understanding, I believe it was last year? Yeah, that covers the relationship between the city and Grace, because there's a lot of cooperation. And I think it's just important that there be council members who are able to answer questions and just to make sure that there's a point of contact and that things are done properly on both sides.
And if I could just add one thing, I actually spoke with Amanda Block from Grace today. I probably should have called her 2 weeks ago, but the one thing that she thinks is a benefit of having Councilwoman Fox and myself, since I'm the liaison for the recreation and Ms. Fox is the liaison for safety, it serves a dual purpose, so.
And I'll just end the council member comments with being very thankful for our nonprofit community who really partners incredibly with the city. And this kind of additional professional expertise added to the board and relationship with the government is such a good thing. So I want to thank the mayor, who has really been instrumental in making sure there's a good relationship between the city and our nonprofits. So there are any comments from the public?
I'll say something. I wasn't going to, but I just always have to talk, I guess. I just want to say that I am a board member of Grace, and I have been for many years. I am a dental hygienist, and I provide the dental services for the children of the community. And I want to say that I welcome all of you to come and be a part of Grace. It's eye-opening, and our numbers are growing, so we do need the help. So I'm asking the people who are watching, our watchers, to chip in and help us. We're there on Thursdays. There's other days. If you visit our website, I'm not sure if it's, you can look up Grace Summit, City of Summit, and chip in and help. So I welcome everybody here to come in and join. It's a great organization, and it's a great place to be part of City of Summit. So thank you.
Thank you for your service on the board. Alrighty, so this is a voice vote,
Yes.
and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And any nays?
I guess we can vote for ourselves.
Alrighty. So this one is approved. And now we move on to item number 3.
Item number 3 is ID number 10160, which is to appoint Summit Parking Advisory Committee member, and this was pending closed session discussion. Per closed session, John Hitchings has been nominated for this position. It is ironic that I'm bringing up this resolution tonight for several reasons. I'm always amazed at how many volunteers actually do raise their hand, and I'm so thankful that they raise their hand. However, as someone new to this process of appointing the various committees in the city, I realize that oftentimes there are multiple candidates who apply to a position, and we are tasked with making a very difficult decision on who to choose. In this case, we had multiple qualified candidates. And I felt, looking back and looking forward, that I think that we can tighten up the process. And I've been pretty vocal with my colleagues up here on really trying to ask really qualified and quantitative questions for the candidates, because I think in a committee like parking, that's very important. As the chair of parking, I really want to know how you're going to help me, because as everybody's talked about here, we have a lot of parking concerns. So with all of that being said, I look forward to always improving how we appoint volunteers in the city to ensure the process is fair and transparent, especially when there are multiple candidates who would be applying to one spot. With all that being said, I would like to move this resolution.
And I second, and if it's okay, Council President Pro Tem, I'd like to make a quick comment.
Sure.
John applied back in summer 2021 for this committee and other committees as well. He's an attorney and expertise in areas of negotiation and dispute resolution, which I found quite important in this particular committee. He's a student mentor for his alma mater. He's already a volunteer of his time, which is really an important thing. He is enthusiastic and ready to be part of this committee. He's a frequent commuter, a parking permit holder, user of the garage. John is someone who emphasized to me in multiple phone calls to him that he has 2 ears and 1 mouth. You know the following, and to listen more than you talk. And he's going to listen intently, but he also assured me that he will not shy away from being active on this committee. He said that, and this is a quote, "I will not be a wallflower here." His skills and ideas will make him a valuable participant in this group, and I wholeheartedly second this nomination.
Thank you, Councilmember Minigar. Any questions from our council members? Sure.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. I just want to say thank you to all the volunteers that give their time. And part of that tightening of the process, there are so many volunteers that it's hard to choose everyone. And so if you weren't chosen for a board, I highly recommend that you continue to stay in touch, call council members, come talk to us, and stay engaged in the process because we need everyone's talent. So just wanted to add that.
Councilmember Fox?
I'm going to second what Councilmember Allen said, but also to point out that we do keep applications on file, and just because we do most of our appointments at the beginning of the year, but positions open up all the time, and we do go back and look at those applications. If your application has gotten stale, I think it sticks around for 2 years, so just reapply if you're not sure. But just because you don't get appointed immediately doesn't mean that it isn't going to happen. We have a lot of tough choices to make, and we do try our best to match skills with what our committee chairs say they need in terms of abilities and different mixes of people with different talents and skill sets. So there's a lot that goes into the process. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Fox. I would just like to add that this is a wonderful problem to have here in Summit, that we have more people raising their hands. This was something that I was super concerned about, that we would have a problem with people dropping off and not wanting to volunteer. And so this is a wonderful problem to have. And we also want you to know that these are public meetings and you are invited to attend. And that is also how we are able to make those decisions by people who are involved and active. And so are there any comments from the public? All righty, so can I have a voice vote?
Aye.
Those in favor.
All those in, sorry, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? All right, this passes. And now we move on to safety and health. Councilmember Fox?
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. So safety resolution number 1 is ID 10188, and this is to declare vacancies in the police department. As discussed in closed session, this resolution declares vacancies for 1 lieutenant, 1 sergeant, and 1 police officer as a result of the vacancy caused by the retirement of Lieutenant Michael Rubaska on March 1st. I move this resolution.
And I second it. Any questions from our council members? Mayor, any comment? Okay, any questions or comments from the public? Okay, and we can do this by voice vote. All those in favor of this resolution, may we hear it aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? This passes. Resolution number 2.
Okay, so this is related. So as we discussed in closed session, this resolution confirms the mayor's recommendation for promotions to fill the positions vacated by Lieutenant Rabaska's retirement. So the promotions are as follows. Sergeant Jonathan Garcia is promoted to the rank of lieutenant, and Police Officer Jeffrey Dietz is promoted to the rank of sergeant. And these promotions would have an effective date of March 9th. I enthusiastically move this resolution.
And I second it.
And I should just mention quickly, we do have a police officer candidate going through the process, so you should be seeing the resolution for that shortly.
And I just want to add that these are both of these gentlemen, Sergeant Garcia and Officer Dietz, are veterans, and they are excellent men, and they will be really strong in their new positions. So I'm very happy with these.
Okay. Any other questions from council members? Any comments from the public? Okay, all those in favor of this resolution, say aye.
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 Any nays? This passes. Okay, so we're now moving to law and labor, which is me. And so I will introduce resolution number 10213, which was pending our discussion in closed session. It's authorizing the sick leave with pay for Department of Community Services, Division of Public Works employee who will be out for a period of 1 month and has all of the leave to be out without pay, and so to be out with pay, and so I offer this resolution for approval.
I second. I'm sorry, Susan.
Thank you.
I second.
Any comments from our council members? Any comments from the public? And we wish our staff member a speedy recovery. So now with, may I have a vote of aye to approve this resolution?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, this one passes. Alrighty, so now we'll do resolution ID number 10200 to authorize an extension of sick leave with pay for Department of Community Services employee that will be out, and this was pending a discussion in closed session, will be out for approximately 6 to 8 weeks and has all of the leave time to be out with pay, and so I offer this resolution for approval.
I second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from council members? Any questions from the audience? And we will have a vote.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any nays? Alrighty, so that passes. And now we can move forward with our consent agenda. And may I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor of passing the consent agenda, say aye.
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 Any nays? That passes. Okay, so now we are moving forward to discussions on action and referral items. And so we will open up with Councilmember Levine.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. As Mayor Rada shared in her opening report, the next phase of the PSC&G project to replace aging gas pipes within our municipality is scheduled to begin later this month and continue through the end of June 2023. The phase will heavily involve our central retail business district, also known as our downtown. Specifically, the work will involve parts of Springfield Avenue, Maple Street, Beechwood Road, Woodland Avenue, DeForest Avenue, and Kent Place Boulevard. The critical infrastructure must progress as scheduled because the underground gas lines we have are outdated and dangerous. They are subject to leakage as well as suboptimal functionality regarding delivery of the gas power. And actually, at our next council meeting, a representative from PSE&G will be here to answer questions about this and other projects within our municipality. We cannot stand in the way of utility projects. We have to accommodate them. But as long as we maintain a good relationship, which we have, we accommodate each other. Many of our streets are already torn up, awaiting repair, so this is frustrating. We share your frustration about that, because now we'll be opening, the utilities will open new streets before some of the others have been fully repaired. But as a reminder, it's the utility companies in the county, Union County, that oversee and conduct these repairs and the curb-to-curb paving, not our municipality. And as I just stated, we have to accommodate these utilities, but as long as we maintain a good relationship, we accommodate each other. As I stated at our last council meeting, we had been actively tracking the arrival of PSE&G to our downtown, and they are scheduled for absolutely the worst time with respect to outdoor enjoyment of our downtown for the spring and the summer months. So while this didn't come as a complete surprise, we were hoping that their estimated timeline for project completion would allow for the possibility of at least a short closure of Maple Street. But the purpose of this DAR and discussion today is that the committee that I chair, which is the Capital Projects and Community Services Committee, it's our recommendation that we don't pursue any closure of Maple Street this year based on the timeline that PSE&G has given us. And so we would like to discuss this now publicly as a council. And we'd really like to hear from each of you your thoughts.
Okay, so we're opening up the discussion, and Councilmember Minigar, please go ahead and speak.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. So I guess my comment is not really so much about Maple Street, it's about this project. And it's really important and it's really useful. It's going to make things safer. It makes the gas lines able to handle higher pressure. It allows shutoffs at each residence. There's a video of this on the PSE&G website, nj.pseg.com. Select Summit. You can see the gas system modernization program, and it describes every bit of that. It's a really important thing, so I think we should allow this once in several decades project to happen. Yes, it's going to disrupt us a little bit, but it's going to be for the better.
Thank you, Councilmember Minigar. Is there any other comments from our council members?
Sure, I'll go.
Sure.
Regarding Maple Street, it's been a hot topic. Here are my thoughts on Maple Street. I'll be brief. But I do think this is a very good opportunity to reflect. For myself personally, as a council member with constituents on both sides, I will be reflecting on this issue, thinking about how it could have been better and should I have thought about it a little bit more. And I think it's also an opportunity for us as a council to reflect as well. When I was in the Army, we used to have what's called an AAR. Chief, you probably use them in the firehouse, an after-action review. And we would always do an after-action review after a mission. It helped us to celebrate the things we did well, discuss the things that didn't go so well, and it was an opportunity for us to ensure the next mission was successful. It's not meant to be a blame game or a blame session. It's really an opportunity to improve outcomes. I think that's what we have to learn from this and reflect on. I hope this council will continue to focus on process, process, process. Because if we maintain the right process, we will continue to be able to sleep at night and be able to articulate that we have really done the best, what's in the best interest of all of the residents in Summit. I have personally spent weeks without my children in the last, if I could count the days spent on Maple Street. So I just really want to get back to focusing on municipal business and running the city government. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hamlet. Any other comments from council members? Mayor?
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. So two things. One, we all know that this is going to be a mess. PSE&G, they did the work on Morris Avenue and Broad Street, and it's difficult, but it's absolutely crucial that we don't have gas main breaks and that we don't have gas leaks on all of these aging infrastructure. So I'm imploring the residents and business owners to try to be patient. We're all going to have to deal with this, but it has to be done. And as for Maple Street, I do think that there were several points raised by members of the public, property owners particularly, of did we check the safety of the streets? Did we know what we needed to provide to DOT, and have we provided all that? So my feeling is we have an opportunity to address all those things, because while I know that some people, that this sort of became a popularity contest, how many people could come to a meeting, we still had hundreds of residents have stopped me in the last year to say, out on the street, I really like this. This is great. And I've talked anecdotally to business owners, not just working on Maple Street, but around town that have liked it. So I don't know if it's something we would go through, but I do believe we have the responsibility and obligation to all of our residents to do the due diligence in the time we now have, and we're not rushing through. So I would encourage people to be patient and let us do our job, because that's what this council's wants to do every single day. They want to do the right thing, despite what some members of the community might say. So anyway, thank you, and let's try to all be patient and nice to each other while we're stepping over the open streets.
Any other comments?
Yeah,
Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. I just want to say that I think that people came out because they were concerned about the process, and they were concerned about being heard. I mean, I feel like it, and I don't mean this directly, Mayor, it stands out when you say it's a popularity contest. Like, there are people on both sides that love it or they don't. And I think the people that came out that said they don't, it was more about making sure we were crossing our T's and dotting our I's.
I agree.
And so I don't think it was popularity. I think it was ensuring that we on this council were doing the right thing and listening to the concerns for, I mean, I'm looking over, I'm just going to call it out right now. I'm looking at Gil Oren and Tony, and knowing that you own buildings downtown, and there are many others that have come forth, that there is business that had to be done, and you wanted to hear you wanted your concerns to be heard. So, I mean, I feel like, I just want to say that I didn't think it was a popularity contest. People wanted to be heard on both sides, and we should absolutely be respectful of that. So I just wanted to point that
I'm not
out.
saying, I didn't, and if I implied that, I certainly didn't mean to. I'm not saying that people who spoke did not have strong, legitimate feelings. They did. But just the way we had sort of the atmosphere was just a little, was not as serious as I would have liked. That's all. So.
Any other comments from council members? Councilmember Fox?
I'd like to address this process issue, because I keep hearing about this process. There is a process, and we have followed a process. And, you know, we got advice from our lawyer, we got advice from our engineer, we got advice from, you know, from the DOT as to what their process was. And we were following that process. And I know there are a lot of armchair lawyers out there telling us that we didn't do what we were supposed to do. But, you know, I want to, and the other place we got advice was from our fire chief and our police chief. So I want to reassure people that we were not going to open Maple Street or close Maple Street, open it to dining, without following a process, and without going and getting the proper approvals and making sure that things were done right. And I think that's one thing that I can say for this community, is that when we take action, we do things thoroughly, we do dot our I's, we do cross our T's. And, I know that sometimes residents don't feel like they've been let in on every detail, because a lot of times there's work that has to happen behind the scenes to get us to the point where we're ready to present something to the public. And it's a little bit of a stop and start, and I know that people, think that there's something, not above board about it, but really this whole process with Maple Street all along has included making sure that everything has been done legally and safely at all times. So I just wanted to point that out.
Council President Pro Tem, I just want to say, I think it's a good point that we should reflect on the process, and I don't think there was any ill intent. I mean, I personally like outdoor dining, but I just think it's a good opportunity for us to look back and say, what could have been different? And because if it happens again, or, if this comes to be again where they want to close Maple, I just want to make sure we don't end up having, endless meetings till all hours of the night, so.
So I would like to weigh in, because I think there are some good points that have been raised about what is the role of council and mayor, and it is a long view, and it is to look at things from many sides, and of course with safety involved, and of course with legalities involved, and community input involved, and these things evolve. And so I know that there is never anything wrong with our looking back over it and seeing if there's ways that we can improve it, and encouraging positive civic engagement, but we know that that's not always going to be the case, and we will always welcome that. And but one of the things that I want to speak to, because we are going to have a very frustrated community once our downtown area is going to be torn up. And so I would ask us to really consider being very supportive of our downtown restaurants, our downtown businesses, and that's why we take a long view, and that's why we consider things that having a good relationship with PSE&G, so that we can try to make sure everyone's touch is mitigated. And so I'm very disappointed that we won't be able to do the outdoor dining, and I am really hoping that community members will be patient, as the mayor has asked, and that they will support our businesses, and that they'll park in the other lots that parking services has made available, and that we get a lot of walking done. This is going to be a tough time, and that's what this council and staff do amazingly. They try to anticipate and plan for, and you don't get to see all of that, and it gives you the impression that there is not process going on. But we're going to be up for tough times. And so I'm trying to think of Greg, how he would want us to really be mindful.
You'd have 3 points.
I'm sorry, brain doesn't work that way. But are there any other comments?
Just a quick one. Is this something that we could push to the planning board for a subcommittee or some other discussion for Maple Street?
I don't think it's a planning board. I think because it's really a DOT. It's a Department of Transportation approval process. If that's something you guys are going to do in the future,
Just seems like it makes sense that it would go to planning.
it wouldn't go to planning, because planning really deals with property. This is thoroughfares. It's controlled by, all thoroughfares in the state of New Jersey are controlled by the Department of Transportation. So it's really a common council determination if you want to pursue this, and it would involve utilizing your Department of Engineering, traffic studies, and all that, which would be an expenditure of funds. So I don't think the planning board does like road openings on a site, et cetera. But I don't know if the planning board would be the appropriate venue to look at it. Generally, like when the governing body decides to do a master plan examination, it starts here, it goes to the planning board for review, then it comes back here. So this would be something that would emanate from this body, but ultimately, this body doesn't make the call. As I said previously, it's an arduous task that you have to go through and go to the Department of Transportation.
Planning, if they did take this on, which I don't think they should, they'd have to go to DOT anyway.
Everybody,
because it's all determined by DOT.
All roadways in the state of New Jersey, for closures greater than 48 hours, it's in the statute, requires DOT approval.
Thank you.
Do we open it up for the public now?
Yeah. Can I just ask a quick question? I think to that point, you're thinking of planning because of topology, right? So in terms, are you thinking our planning board or a planner?
Like topology, or even, I mean, we have some pretty smart people sitting on planning. I would think that they might be able to weigh in.
All right. Thank you, Councilman.
Okay. Good evening.
Hi, Rosemary Zotti, Shumpike Road. We're not doing the outdoor dining this year, but I'd like to share a little Summit history with you. Okay. We all like the Summit Promenade on Springfield Avenue. The musicians when they're there, the art, or just cutting through to the parking garage. But it wasn't always an open space. There was a building there, and that building caught on fire. It was a cold February evening 55 years ago. The fire trucks came through Maple Street to get to the front of the building on Springfield Avenue. The police came through the alley on Maple Street to get to the back of the building. It was retail on the ground floor and residential on the second and third floors. There was at least a dozen pieces of equipment, including 3 aerial fire trucks, fighting the blaze. One tenant had to be rescued from her third floor window. After her rescue, the fire went out of control and completely gutted the building's interior. We pray nothing like that ever happens again, but there are quite a few residential tenants in our downtown. This is a real safety issue that we all should be concerned about. Our streets are for cars and emergency vehicles, not tables and parklets. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Excuse me, I have a cold.
Can you say your name?
Yes, my name is Diego Hoyt, 9 Argyle Court. And a couple of thoughts. It's good that Maple Street for this year gets postponed for a while. Maybe we can make sure we have a poll in Ms. Allen's website that says that a majority of residents want it. We have to do the proper process. It's a good time out to figure out what to do for the following summer. But as we go into the project of tearing up the streets, which is necessary, because God knows we do not want any kind of a gas main break, it will be important for the residents to see a light at the end of the tunnel. And what I mean by that is to know more or less when the streets are going to be paved. I think it's going to help a lot our community to know when we expect to have our streets back to normal again. It will help a lot with patience. It's different to say, be patient, eventually will be paved, versus be patient, by the end of the summer or by the end of July or by whenever it will be paved. I know it's difficult to work with utilities, but anything you can do to make sure that we know when our streets are going to be usable again would be a benefit to the society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hoyk. And I know that Director Schrager is working closely with PSC&G, and we will put out announcements absolutely weekly, if not more often. Some of this is not in our control. Weather, contractor availability, supply chain. So we will keep everyone apprised as to what is going on, and when we have an estimate that we believe, we will communicate it. But it is just, you know, we were supposed to have Morris Avenue done much more quickly than it was. Mm-hmm. So We will do our absolute level best because it affects every single one of us every day.
Of course, yeah. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Thank you.
Did you say you had a cold? So, just kidding.
There's masks behind you in the foyer if you'd like.
Tony Melchior on 42 Maple Street. I've been in town for quite a while, and I've undergone many disruptions in the downtown during Walter Long, rest in peace. As mayor, we ripped up the entire town, sidewalks, and the first sidewalk that was broken down, Rosemary's shaking her head, was in front of my salon. We ripped up streets. We've installed new sewers, you name it. It was major. I don't think this will be as bad. We lived through the JCP&L also, burying the lines underground, which was a couple-year event to do that. And we know that it's necessary. I personally know it's necessary. My building's on Union Place. When there is an ice storm like what we had today, early this morning, New Jersey Transit lights up their rails. There's two sort of like metal tins with the rail in the center, and they light up almost like your barbecue oven to keep the rails from freezing. I don't have enough supply power for my gas furnaces and so on, and that's been going on for many years. So I understand that it does have to go on, and I'm happy that this is going to be on. Through you, Council President Pro Tem. Boy, that's a real mouthful, isn't it? Can't we do like CPPT? Hey, through you, Council Pro Tem, if I could ask Aaron Schrager. We all know what our gas meters look like at home. These gas meters now are going to be located on the sidewalk, correct?
Through you, what was that, CPPT? No, the original intent, when this project first was brought to the engineering division in September 2021, was they were going to move all the gas meters from downtown that were inside out to the sidewalk. We pushed back very hard against that. That is not happening. They confirmed that recently. So in the downtown, that will not be happening. So you will not have those gas meters, and then bollards that go with it, they will be staying where they are internally. If there are any that are outside, I imagine those will stay, but they're not moving the bulk of them from inside out. So.
Great, thank you, Aaron. Because I think in the beginning there were some rumors about that, and I'm just thinking of one of my buildings that has about 4 or 5 meters, and having to see those outside. It would also take up the outside dining, cafe dining also. And it's dangerous. If you remember, maybe 2 years ago or so, a person drove into next to the cheese shop, hit the gas instead of the brake, and went into the window. Luckily, nobody was sitting on that bench out there. And all I could imagine is if these gas meters are outside, that would be very dangerous. So I'm very happy to hear that, Aaron, AKA Superman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob Pulowski, 3 Crestacre Court. Just a couple quick questions about some of the things that you guys said. You said we go through a process, we do due diligence. I'd like to know what it is. Is it a secret? I just want to know. I've been asking, what exactly it is that we're going to do, and my daughter's reading, just did a report on the jungle, and I want to know how the sausage is made. So maybe you guys can share that with us as we go forward at some point in time. What are the studies that we're doing? What are we looking at? Because I've asked so many times, and all I hear is, we're doing our due diligence, we're going through the process, et cetera, and I just don't know what it is. My next question is about DOT. What does DOT do? Right? Because I've heard the council, and Aaron told me that, if DOT is good with it, then it must be great. But I don't think we should accept that. So what is it that DOT does? And I also talked to DOT, and DOT said, if Aaron signs off on it, then it must be great. So we can't pass the buck back and forth, but I'm sure you'll do the right thing.
Thank you.
If I could make a comment on that, Council President Pro Tem.
Hold on
Sure.
for a minute, because I want to make sure there were 2 questions that were asked. And if I heard you ask, what is the process for street closure? Is that what you were asking?
I'm asking what's the due diligence that has been done about Maple Street in the past? What's planned, if there's any due diligence? Mayor Radis just said that this is going to give us an opportunity to do some due diligence. What is it?
And then your second question.
What is it exactly that DOT does?
And so that's what's, I'm really puzzled by that question, because that is, as a governing body, we have authority that is given to us by the state. And I think I'm going to ask the attorney to speak to that, because that surprises me that you asked that question about what is the relationship between the Department of Transportation.
The Department of Transportation is a state agency under the executive branch of government. They oversee and manage all roadways, whether they're state highways, local streets, county streets, etc. And the statutes in 40A, which the state legislature passes and the governor signs into law, and then there's regulations that are put out by DOT, talk about closures. And when there's a closure of more than 48 hours, there is a statute along with enabling regulations that dictate what have to happen. We, this governing body and Superman Schrager, do not have the ability just to close a roadway permanently. You have to go through DOT. I can tell you that DOT takes this stuff seriously, because there are towns, I think I gave the example of Leonia, where they changed one-way streets that were two-way to one-way to prevent Google from remapping people through Leonia to get to the GW Bridge. There was litigation over it. They went into court to stop it. So DOT, their job is to oversee the roadways. If it doesn't meet the criteria that's set forth in the statute and the regulations, they won't approve it. I can't speak to, conversations. I just can tell you that my interactions with DOT, I wouldn't have used the word arduous. It's not an easy. My interactions with DOT over the years, they have lots of engineers that look at these things very carefully.
Right.
Okay, and I didn't know if it was worth Aaron to respond about what the due diligence that happens, because I think we've heard it over and over again, and perhaps people don't. I don't know if Mr. Pulowski, you don't agree with the due diligence that takes place in terms of all the regulations that have to be followed, and all of the research and studies that need to be done over time. That's what I hear as the due diligence. So that's why I wanted to make sure we were answering your question, because...
Do we do all that stuff?
Well, can I just say something? So I think people have to recall the closure of Maple Street and the parklands and all that, that was really done during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. That was to save businesses in the downtown, to keep them vibrant, keep people employed, frankly, keep residents from going out of their minds to not have a place to go eat. And the governor, with the various executive orders, frankly gave municipalities broad powers that normally aren't granted to permit closures like this. So was there the same due diligence that was done that would be required today? Absolutely not. We were acting under executive orders to really kind of salvage, make sure that the businesses, these vibrant businesses, didn't go out of business. Restaurants, etc. So I think you have to, we can't look at it as what happened in the last 2 years, because that was really a reaction to the pandemic and trying to come up with, quick thinking to keep businesses afloat. So the due diligence that was done there was basically done because of a fiat by the governor, executive orders. Without the pandemic, there is due diligence. There's a requirement that requires engineers to opine whether or not the criteria is satisfied. I can tell you, like, if you just, for example, if you said we're going to close down River Road, we want to close down River Road, the one that comes off of 24, you're not going to be able to do that. That's not going to pass. So, you know, I think that going forward, you are going to have to do the due diligence that's mandated by state law before you could even embark on it. And before you do that, it's really whether or not the governing body at the time wants to even embark on that. Frankly, you hadn't embarked on it for, I don't know, it was before the pandemic. Was Maple ever closed? Probably not. It was only closed because of the pandemic, and people said, oh, we like outdoor dining, and that's how this came into fruition. So, yeah, I think that we just have to take a step back and say, okay, this was a result of the pandemic, and now if this is something that we want to pursue in the future, if PSE&G is done in the next year or two, then you guys can relook at it. I'm not really criticizing PSE&G, but, you know, so I just want people to understand that this wasn't, I think people are forgetting that, you know, we closed it, we need to do our due diligence. The goal here was to close it to keep people, businesses employed, people employed, and to really give people an outlet during a very dark time for all of us, collectively across the country, the world.
Susan, ma'am. Mr. Pawlowski, prior to this revised, much worse information that we received from PSE&G, which was just a week and a half or so ago, we had embarked on the process of these various things, getting the expert opinions of our fire chief and our chief of police. And to us, it was internal. It hadn't been made public yet because everything came to a screeching halt. So what I was saying before is since we have come to a halt, we know that our engineer has to make an application to DOT. If we decide we're going to go through with this at all, they have to make an application, and DOT approves it or not. We need to get information and the opinions, final opinions from our experts in fire and police, and that sort of thing. We didn't finish that because everything came to a screeching halt because of this PSE&G. We thought it might be a month project. Now we know it's going to be at least several months. So we're not there yet. That's all I'm saying.
So there is no action that we're taking. This was to discuss what is happening. Is there any more comments? Of course.
Yes, sorry.
Councilmember Allen.
I'll get you out of here at 10.
Okay.
Only
Come on
kidding.
now.
Yeah, I think for me, what I learned, I just want to put this out there. When I talk about process, it sounds like a nebulous word. So to be very specific about process, I think my personal opinion is the way that council operates is we get a request and it gets assigned to a committee. And I think for me, that did not happen. That SDI came up with an idea, and I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I just feel like maybe for the process for me should have been the council somebody received a DAR, then it's assigned to the appropriate committee, and the appropriate committee evaluates it. And I think where some of the mistrust for me, in my opinion, broke down was people were questioning the survey. I think the city could have been a part of that process. So just to be really specific on process, it's not nebulous. It's the step-by-step on how council usually takes on requests and making that similar as part of the process. I think we could have been much more engaged in the process along the way, and instead it ended up being more in SDI's hands, and then we took the brunt of the frustration.
So Councilmember Fox.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. This is the first time that someone has explained to me what their concern about the process is. I keep hearing process, and so SDI did this survey, and it was then, at the same time, it was assigned to a committee. It was assigned to the Capital Projects Committee. And, we took the information that we got from SDI, but that wasn't all we did. We also had a number of meetings where we heard from members of the public. We were talking to our safety professionals as well, our police chief, our fire chief, our engineer. So there was a process. There was an internal process, which is the committee process that we operate on all the time, in every action we do. And the two were kind of parallel, or they kind of met. And so I'm actually relieved to hear that what people are talking about process, because this is the first time anyone has explained what they thought was deficient about the process. And I guess, yes, it might have been better if we had been more involved in the SDI project as well. But that being said, that's water under the bridge.
May I?
Yes, Councilmember.
I think we were not involved in the survey, and I think that it would have served us well to be a part of that survey. And CAP did not get it, my understanding, until after the survey. So we were really playing catch-up the entire time.
Okay.
And I think the city should have got ahead of it from the very start. I think we should have ran that process, so just being clear.
That's fair.
Susan, can I make a comment?
Yes, Councilmember.
Council President Pro Temp, I can't even say it. Lisa, I think that's a great point, and I actually, nobody had articulated it to me like that, but one of the things that I know Susan and I were passionately talking about today, Council President Pro Temp, once we hashed it out towards the end of the evening, is how do we, one of the things that we can probably definitely get better at is this public engagement, because we can't all talk as a council. We just can't do it. And it's really helpful when we can have this public dialogue. So for instance, when a resident submits a DAR or a discussion action referral, and it goes into a committee, it may go to Councilwoman Levine's committee, and she may be working on it for several months, but I may not know what she's working on. But I may have something in law and labor to say, hey, you know what? I could add something here. So I think getting updates while we're giving committee updates, it would be really helpful if we could publicly explain to you where we're at with specific DARs if we're allowed to do it at that time, because then the level of trust will be increased. And that's something that I've been very interested in this week, and I hope that we can make some improvements to that process so that there is more public engagement and transparency.
And I want to echo that, and I really want to call out our council president, who has done so much to restructure how we're engaging and to permit, he's asked each of the committee members to be prepared to discuss what's happening in committee, and to also make explicit the DARs be a part of the council agenda. And you're going to be shocked to hear this, but I actually really like the idea that you raise about having a list that we can keep track of. What I would share with you that I hope we never go into this rabbit hole, which I've seen other councils who are unable to operate by committee and have to do everything on the dais. And it is just a long process that is not in the best interest of efficiency and especially the excellence that comes from the cooperation between staff and the governing body, and then also community input. So I am hoping we never have to not be operating by committee, because there is something very powerful about it. But I couldn't agree with you more, and I know our council president has been very intentional about not allowing us to go into that, I want to be dignified, hellhole of what happened with Broad Street West. It was a hellhole. And so to really gain back, as I heard the mayor say, the trust of the community, and to really work well together, I believe is everyone's intention here. So can we close the conversation on this DAR?
Oh, yes.
Councilmember
This has been
Levine.
arduous.
Thank you, yes.
Okay, all righty, thank you. So I think now we get to move to public comments, and this is for the public to discuss anything that has not been on the agenda.
So I think there's been at least one opening on the Historical Preservation Committee for some time now. I applied about 6 weeks ago. I am enthusiastic and ready to be part of this committee. I'd like to know what the process is for that. Are there a lot of other applicants?
Can I just raise one
Thank you, Madam.
Mr. Jacoby, you should know that Mr. Pulaski has filed successfully as a candidate for council.
That's okay.
I just want to make sure that there's no conflict
No,
with him
no
still
conflict.
applying for a
Yeah,
volunteer position.
You can do that, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify.
Okay.
Okay. And so our process for filling the vacancies on our committees, all of our committees, we have a process that happens, as you heard earlier, in the end of the year. And then when there are vacancies, we fill them as they come up in connection with the committee that is in place and dealing with the committee chairs. And one size does not fit all because we have different boards with different authorities, but the Historic Preservation Committee, which is I am the liaison to that committee, is getting their bearings straight and is now at a full cohort that is operating very well. I know you attended their meeting last month, and we are under the conversation. We are not filling that position now, and we are certainly taking your resume and your application into consideration, and you'll hear. And I know you've actually had a conversation with the chair. So I know we don't get into appointments. We don't discuss that in public because that is a closed session discussion about how we make the decision, but I wanted to give you the overall process.
I think you just said that you're not going to fill that opening?
At this moment, we said in conversation, and I thought he may have relayed that to you, but I want to say we haven't had that discussion about in closed session, so I want to be careful. But
yeah, all appointments, that's why it says pending closed session discussion, because if you have a number of applicants, you give them the courtesy of privacy rights, so that if you have 2 or 3 applicants and you select one, you're not embarrassing or putting somebody in an awkward position. This governing body has not discussed an appointment to the Historic Preservation Commission, but you'll do that in due course based on applicants, and you've got applicants from last year as well, too. So, and you look at them, and then the governing body looks at them, reviews them, has discussion. They very often talk to people on whatever committee there is. If it's the Arts Committee or the Historic Preservation, they get input from them, what their needs are. For example, on the rent leveling board, you brought in somebody who's a renter, and an owner, somebody who owns it. So they look at all that, and then the governing body makes a determination in closed session, and then the appointment takes place in a public meeting pending a closed session discussion.
But you said there's a full, no, not at all. You said there's a full cohort and you're not taking anybody else?
no, I said that there is the alternate position.
Right.
Is the one that is up for vacancy right now.
Right, yeah, I see it right here.
Yes, you do.
So, any idea when you're gonna fill it?
No, I don't.
So it could be 10 months, it could be 1 week?
I doubt it'll be that long, but we will keep you posted.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm going to do a little history lesson, see if you guys know any of this information. 2019, Mr. Giacobbe, I don't know if you were the attorney then, Councilwoman Little was present, and she introduced a resolution. It was in Law and Labor, ID number 6858, Rosie. The resolution was calling for an establishment of a study commission to review the Open Public Records Act. Probably wondering why I'm asking this, because I've requested many Oprahs, and now I'm not a politician, I'm just a dental hygienist, so I really don't know what I'm doing, but they all come back denied. Now, I think I'm asking the simple things, like, I put a person's name in and their date and their emails, and they get denied, so I try again, denied. So I'm here asking, who in this world is responsible for this? So then I look it up in lovely TAP articles, that it's a resolution called for an establishment of a study commission to review the Oprah requests. And for people who are watching, these are requests that I can ask for emails or correspondence from our council people here and our mayor of what's happening. So if I understand what the process is, if I am confused, I can kind of try to do the research myself. A dramatic increase in requests over the past several years has strained our city resources. This year, it's resulted in some 200 hours of administrative time. Little noted, she agrees with the act's intent, but she said execution needs improving. So I would love to understand what this study commission is to review the Oprahs and who's responsible for reviewing them and why I keep getting denied. Does anybody know anything about this? Maybe this is the first time you're hearing about it. I don't know.
I don't, personally, honestly, I know that there are tons of Oprah requests, and it's all that the clerk's office has to go through them and make the decisions, and they know the criteria. I do not, and I don't recall this ID number 6858, but I do know it's an onerous.
Would you like me to give you this?
No, we
Mayor?
can
Okay.
we can look into it.
Mayor?
We'll talk to the clerk.
Yeah, so, I don't even think your definition that you read was correct.
I'm just reading it off of the city website. I printed it, what the ID number is.
Oh, no, you're saying no, what I said, what you described as the Open Public Records Act.
Commission.
The commission, it just says it was a second
commission?
resolution called for the establishment of a study commission to review the Open Public Records Act.
Wasn't that a state commission?
Yeah, is that a state commission?
Yeah.
So the
It's not a
league
council.
proposed a resolution and asked all municipalities to consider going forward and asking the state to create a commission to address some of the concerns that municipalities had about the way Oprah requests, the number of Oprah requests that are received, especially from private entities using taxpayer dollars to retrieve records. It's not so much the citizen, but the private entities who are having financial gain from using taxpayer dollars for me to have to review records and release them to them. So
Okay.
There's a lot of commercial entities right now that you might not be aware of. They do vast Oprah requests, and then they go out and solicit business. There was a case here where there was a fence company that wanted all the residents' home addresses if they had a dog. They had a dog.
They wanted everything.
Everything. Dog breed, everything.
Dog everything.
Yeah. So they could solicit stuff. So that's what the study commission was about, was these commercial entities that the Oprah requests are like, they have experts drafting them, so they're compliant with the law in terms of date ranges, specificity, et cetera. But it's not really to have transparency, it's to create a new business venture for different entities out there.
So how does this work for people like me who aren't getting any Oprahs back?
Well, what you can do is there is an entity out there through the state. It's called the Government Records Council, and you can call the Government Records Council. They also have a website, and they can tell you how to make an Oprah request compliant. A lot of people will say, I want all the emails from Mike Rogers from January 1st. That wouldn't be compliant. But they do have people that can assist you, and they have a website as well. So the Government Records Council is probably the best place for a layperson to go and look and get guidance from on how to make Oprah requests legally compliant. The custodian of records is the city clerk. Every municipality, every public entity has to have a designated custodian of records. But the Government Records Council is there for common citizens to reach out and get some guidance on. And they also have a website. They give opinions. There's opinions on it and everything. So you can actually look what they find to be compliant and not compliant. That would be my recommendation to you.
And so who reviews these when they go in? Is it,
The clerk's office.
oh, it's just you, so
When
you're
I have
getting inundated with
questions-
all these?
Yeah. So Dory, I did see your request. And so I try to explain to people who file these things that you have to visualize what you're asking. So when you say, I would like all emails about this particular subject from all of the council to some unknown email, whatever the email address is, you're asking me to open every drawer, file drawer in the city, and look one by one. And I'm just using it as a visual. Instead of saying, Rosie, I need the letter that went to Aaron Schrager maybe between 2001 and 2005, and it was about this subject. I can go to Aaron, I go, Aaron, check your records from here, this correspondence. Did you get a letter from so-and-so? We pull it out of the file, you get the copy. That's the way an open request has to be written. It has to give me direction to retrieve a letter, not to do a search that I might interpret as responsive to your request. It has to be clear what you're looking for. And unfortunately, the way they're written, they're not written that way.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, no problem.
Come to my office and I'll take care of your mouth if you'd like.
Hello.
Leslie Salcido, 412 Morris Avenue. I just have a simple question. When is PSG going to be done on Morris Avenue? I mean, we weren't notified. Almost every other day, something's being closed. I mean, people on Morris Avenue, we lived through the American Water last year. That took longer. We knew PSG was coming. We didn't know when it was coming. All of a sudden, our road is being closed again. So if there's any updates we can get about what the status of this project is going to be.
I'll work on it tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Okay, so I think I can ask for council member comments for new business. Councilmember Allen, what's on your mind?
I just wanted to say, the admin committee and CAP together are bringing PSC&G here to the next meeting on the 21st, so I just wanted to say that. So, yeah. What's that?
By the 21st.
Yeah, well,
Well, it won't be paved, it won't be paved by then probably, because it's not warm enough.
It's not warm enough yet.
Yeah, have to wait for the weather to get warm. The asphalt plants are closed.
Would that be appropriate for them to ask to put that on the presentation? What's happening with Morris Ave?
Well, you think if they're going to be here, someone's going to ask them that question.
Yeah.
And so whether it's
I
on the
think-
agenda or
I
not.
think it's the water company who's responsible for Morris Ave, right? Not PSC&G. I think it's New Jersey American Water, I think, right? They'll be doing the paving of Morris on a similar schedule to, what PSC&G is paving too, but.
Yeah, well, ultimately, it's the water company that will pave Morris Avenue, but right now, PSG has snuck in and is doing additional work.
Okay.
And since that's a county road, they go through the county, so I haven't seen a permit application just because they go through the county.
Okay.
But yes, they have snuck in the last week to do some work, so.
So then New Jersey American Water, when the weather gets better, they will do the paving.
They will do the final paving, yes.
One thing, I know we're trying to close the meeting, but when the street is opened up and one utility, because one utility has done work and another comes in to do work while it's open, this is good, that's what we want, so that a street isn't then opened again, or you're not subject to, increased aging infrastructure because of a moratorium on the allowance of tearing up and repaving within a certain amount of time, so this is actually a good thing.
And they have been, the PSC&G and New Jersey American Water have been very cooperative, working together on a lot of projects, Summit Avenue, Morris Avenue. We had them over on Tulip Street. As part of downtown, we reached out proactively to Verizon, New Jersey American Water to say, listen, PSG is coming in. Can you do the same if you have anything, or at least check? So Verizon has said they won't be. New Jersey American Water is still getting back to us. So.
Thank you. Any other comments?
we do?
Councilmember Hamlet?
Yes, thank you, Council
President Pro Tem.
President Pro Tem.
President Pro Tem is good.
President Pro Tem. Is this an okay time to do committee updates? Is that,
Sure.
Okay, great. I'll be quick, I promise. I know everyone wants to go home. First, I just want to say congratulations to all of the high school students. I was so impressed by the high school play and just wanted to obviously give them a congratulations. Regarding recreation, I'm trying to attend the New Jersey Recreation and Parks Association meeting next week. Hopefully I'll be able to attend that if my schedule permits. We had the PAL ping pong tournament last week, which was fabulous. Hometown Heroes. The deadline for Hometown Heroes is March 31st. We've received 5 applications this year. I would encourage, if you know a veteran, nominate them. For those who might feel it's an awkward accomplishment or something to do, I'd like to mention that it is very important for our young children to make the connection between members of our community and those who have served. They certainly would like to see more banners up there. Parking, we continue to evaluate ride sharing. Parking meter times, Mr. Oren, I'll talk to you this week, and safety sticks. In addition, I am on the Union County Revenue Sharing Committee with myself, Keith Kennard, and May Friedel attended meetings this week and last week, and I am pleased to mention that we received approximately $50,000 for the community center at Vito Gallo, and I believe we received another fund today, but I haven't received, I'll wait till next week to mention that, but I think that was it, so thank you.
That's good news.
It's really good news, really good news.
That's fantastic. Councilmember Minigar, any updates?
Sure. I am the chair of the Finance Committee. We have worked a lot on the budget, the capital and operating budgets. There's really no information to present with that yet, but I did want to bring up another update that we're restarting the Senior Summit committee, which is a committee that's designed to talk about issues that are important to seniors. It's a meeting that involves nonprofit organizations in the city that work with seniors. One of the topics, and Mayor, you made me aware of this one, is the Senior Freeze program. Those letters went out just recently. I didn't realize they'd already gone in the mail. It's basically to freeze, reimburse eligible seniors for their property tax. And the application to apply for that is October 31st, 2023 for 2022 applications. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fox?
I have just a quick announcement. We received a grant. It's actually $250,000 for the Parkline project that came from community project funding from the federal government. So it's a nice piece of change for the Parkline. So thank you to Director Schrager for his work and the Parkline Foundation's work on this.
Councilmember Levine, any more, or are you done?
Did I steal it?
Sure, no. There's always updates coming out of capital projects. No, one thing we're working on diligently is that permanent dog park. So that hopefully we'll have some more concrete news to share soon regarding that, but that's exciting.
So out of law and labor, we have a very mundane agenda. The fun part is the volunteer training that we're doing in collaboration with admin. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be a great community rolling out that we'll be doing. I did want to somehow, and I know this is safety, but the chief, I gave you a hint that I'm very excited about the pedestrian campaign that you have worked on, and it's not new, but you're really taking it to a whole nother level, vehicle safety and pedestrian safety. And why I'm excited about it is I'm a liaison to the schools, and it's an opportunity for me to piggyback on what you're doing as the officers go out to the schools. We talked about, and I talked with Amy about reaching out to all the heads of schools and activating the heads of schools in communicating with their parents and their teachers about good pedestrian and good vehicle behavior, and warning them about the increased enforcement that is coming. And so I don't think I won't, you're looking too relaxed over there, so I won't ask you to talk about it. But please stay tuned. There is, I believe there's something on the website.
Yeah, there's a lot, and it's
A lot.
it's also on the police website. We have a whole campaign that we're rolling out that's social media, video, Facebook Live, going to the schools, and we had a meeting with 4 officers, and it'll be robust. Plus some targeted multiple police officer ticketing in various locations around the community, and that's already started. That was we gave out a lot of tickets on one day last week. So people just have to know they have to behave, and we're not messing around.
And Council President Pro Tem, the Officer Katiga, I believe, was at the middle school today for a presentation with the students about pedestrian safety. So it's it's also making sure that our kids are safe and they're not walking around looking at their phones as they're crossing streets, which I've gotten caught doing. Sorry, Chief.
And we had an amazing time last week. All of the council members got to participate in Read Across America. And it is a privilege that we get to hang out with the 5th graders and engage with them and read with them. And so that was something that happened across the nation. And I want to thank the Officer
Katiga.
Officer Katiga organized that. And I don't know about the rest of the council, but it was the highlight of my week. Right up there with Still I Rise. So that was a good one. So, oh, absolutely.
I just want to say, I'm really excited to hear about the rollout at the schools. And you might have already included this, but I think including the YMCA, the Connection, some of the nonprofits would be really great. And also, if there's any flyers that are going home with the kids from the schools, we could put those in the business windows. Like you could, maybe you already folded this in, but I'm just throwing this idea out.
I'll talk to Amy. They've already gone out to the schools.
I'm putting the same flyer in the windows in the businesses so that there's a connection. And at some point, maybe when it warms up, if police are downtown and they're helping kids cross through the pedestrian walkways and creating that as part of a program, I think that you're going to get parents and kids kind of on board simultaneously. So I'm very
For a while.
excited. Well,
I actually think we are, and there may be statistics on this, but we're back now. And it seems like we're back in greater numbers in cars. And we're learning, we're unlearning impatience and bad behavior, we're hoping. And that's what we are counting on enforcement to carry out. But I was real struck at the school, how the schools are back 100%. And I have colleagues who are still concerned about coming into the office. And I was like, wow, you're living in a different planet because many people are back. And but I do know COVID is waving its head too, so we still have to come back safely. We really need to pay attention to that. So I feel like I need to ask Administrator Michael Rogers. No, I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. No, I think if all minds are clear, Madam City Clerk, we may call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Great job, Susan.
Good night.
Nice job.
Yay, Susan.